common pattern I saw in specifically highly effective people, in billionaires, or highly highly performing athletes, world class athletes. So one of the main things that I've discovered is how detailed, how much attention these individuals put into goal setting. And it seems like the way they look at goal setting is they look at goal setting itself as a skill, rather than something, they're like, how do I say, it's like, when you're starting to walk, right? Like, you don't say, if you're not walking, or just forget about the idea of walking, right? If you're a child, you're gonna slowly develop it. So goal setting for these individuals is something like that. It's something that is very necessary for their life. So, and for us, like, one of the things I remember my life when I didn't have goals in my life, right? So I realized how difficult it was and how lack of direction I had. But when I see with people who are highly successful, goals set, they actually don't really start or do anything without goal setting, without setting a goal that is, further down, a lot further down in their life, and then reverse engineering it. So that's one of the main things I discovered when I during my research, is how much scientifically and how much time these individuals spend on goal setting. So to make the process easier, what I've done is I've created basically a simple step system, right, to help you achieve your goals. And it will make it easier. And this model I've actually used, it actually have components, like, I basically researched how Warren Buffett sets goals. So it has components from him. It has components from Jeff Bezos, which called the regret minimization technique. We will talk about that. And then it has also have Tony Robbins a technique on how to create action plans. So it combines this model that I'm going to be showing you. It has multiple people's models in it, and especially people who have been successful. So I kind of like borrowed their system and then kind of created a unified system that basically helps me set goals. So this is this process, and I used to set goals. So hopefully you will find it useful as well. So the first step in this process is essentially writing down, coming up with about 25 lifetime goals in your life. So for this, I actually this idea of coming up with 25 lifetime goals, actually I learned it from Jeff Bezos. He uses and recommends a system called regret minimization framework. So what that system does is that it asks you to essentially advance your life to 100 years old or 120, however you want to live, right? So let's say that I want to live till 100, and then he asks you to think about and imagine your life at 100, and look back and see what you wish you accomplished, right? So for example, I want to write a certain number of books by the time I'm 100. I want to visit certain places. I want to do certain specific things. So this process, essentially, you sit down and take the time. What do I actually want to come up with, or what I want to do, accomplish in my lifetime while I'm alive. So what it does is essentially, it later in your life, it minimizes the regret of you not doing that activity, right? So that's what that it's called, the regret minimization technique. You basically advance your life, right, to 100 years old, and imagine and look around you and say, what do I wish that I accomplished, right? And this what this do is, it also shift your subconscious mind and conscious mind to focus on the future rather than dwelling in the past. So in the beginning, because if you have a lot of practice and habit of just dwelling in the past and thinking about the past, it will take some time to kind of come up with these 25 goals if you don't have the practice. But what I would say, enjoy the struggle of you setting goals, because that means if you're struggling, and if you don't know how to do it properly and it's confusing, that's okay, you're growing. It's a skill that needs to be developed and grown. So this will essentially help you shift over your mind, instead of dwelling and living in the past, to focus on the desires within your subconscious mind or within your heart, to bring it in out within you, right? So you can see it. So, and then write them down. Don't keep it in your head. That's one of the biggest things I see in these individuals, is that they have a tendency to write things down, like we talked about in the journal session. Okay, so 25 goals. Take your time. I'll give you some examples on what some of these goals can be, but the idea is essentially spend the time to come up with 25 goals that you prioritize. So I recommend, for everyone, prioritize peace and happiness as number one goal. For me, without peace and happiness, all other goals really don't really mean anything for me. So that's why I do everything that close. Even these workshops or the books and courses I create, it's actually bringing me peace and happiness when I'm creating and developing them. So because I know it actually helped me, so when I'm helping other people with the same stuff, it makes me happy, right? So one of the things, that's what I would recommend you do. Okay, and then what you do is next is essentially select, right? Well, after that 25 goals, select the most important, your favorite 5 goals out of that 25 goals, right? So this is because this is coming from actually Warren Buffett. He recommends that he also recommends that we come up with 25 goals and focus on 5 goals. But one of the main things I noticed, that when you focus on limited number of goals, it helps you focus and identify the thing that would make the highest difference, right? So for example, your number one goal in this list should have a huge impact in your life if you were to achieve it, right? It could be you getting a specific role, or maybe you're starting a company, or maybe you're completing a specific project, a personal project or work project that can have a huge impact. So it should be the most important 5 goals for your happiness and for your development. Okay, so you write the 25 goals, you come up with the first most important 5, right? And then you start with that. Okay, so I see Nat has a question, so let me take a look at it. Let me see what she says. So what if your goals or vision board has to offer? Yeah, so honestly, for me, that happened as well. So I'll talk about that, Nat. So one of the things that really helped me kind of move with my goals is creating 90-day plans. So I know a lot of people say, oh, what is your yearly goals? What are you doing? They are great. I also have like 2-3 year goals, but the way I plan things is 90 days at a time, right? So for example, like I have a goal to basically publish 1 book every quarter, right? If I cannot do it, it's fine. I'm just pushing it to the next quarter or next 90 days. But the way I plan things, like it's in university, right? You know how in university you have 12 weeks, and then you start to get things done, and you do a whole bunch of work and assignments, and then it's very scheduled, right? So what I recommend you do for anyone is plan out what are something that you can accomplish within the next 90 days, and then start listing out actions, at least 30 actions that you can do in the 90 days to push forward you with the goal, right? So first of all, don't have too many goals. Don't work on all 25 goals. Max 5 goals, right? And then basically write down about 30 actions that you can do to make sure that that happens. And one of the things that I also go through this issue where sometimes stall in certain goals. One of the things that I create a Google sheet, right? And then I basically have 5 different sheets for each goal. And on the top it says what is the goal I want to hit, right? And then below it lists out all the actions that I want to do, and then I basically check them off as I complete them, right? So that's the kind of the process I work through. And if something doesn't have enough time, so sometimes one of my project, one of the courses that I was initially planning to create, it instead of taking 90 days, it took 3 or so 90 days. So it took 3 quarters to create, but it was a really good product, right? So it took that while, but the fact that I created 90 days, it created that sense of urgency. And then you will notice this when you started to do this practice, is that you do most of your work is like in the last like week or 2 weeks, right? So imagine that, right? So imagine like if you're only setting like yearly goals, most of the work you will do essentially it will be in December, because you're trying to catch up and finish it, right? But if you set 90-day goals, you're essentially trying to catch up and finish it 4 times in the year. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to like, complete certain number of workshops before this quarter is done, because this quarter is, for me, technically is done on March 31st, right? So we had January, February, March. So that will be 3 months, 90 days. For by 31st, I need to have completed certain number of workshops, right? So that's kind of how I do it, right? So that's what I would recommend for you as well. Say that you're looking to land a job or land a promotion. You can say, within the next 90 days, I want to land this job, and then list out the activities, specific activities that you can do, at least 20 to 30, I recommend, right? That you can do. And if an activity becomes difficult, just break it down to 2 activities or 3 activities into smaller steps. Okay, so that's how I don't just set a goal. Like I say, I create a system behind it, right? Even if I don't, what I discovered is that these individuals, especially billionaires, these are the main things they do. First, they set the goal. How does the end product look like, and then reverse engineer it, right? And then the reverse engineering process involves basically outlining specific steps that will help them achieve the goal, right? So that's how I do it. So that's what I call a system. And obviously you can keep it simple for now and coming up with a specific task, and then improve it over time with adding more tasks and adding more things that you need to do. So I love me working working in tech and Oracle. I've seen a lot of projects, people try to do a lot of project failures. And what I can tell you is that me coming from personal development and the corporate side, these systems will be the most effective that I've discovered, at least for me, when I'm doing projects and for my clients, because it gives you a really good idea of what you need to work on and whether you're meeting those projects or not, right? Or meeting those goals or not. So that's what I have for goal setting.